Hi folks, Jake Schogler here. You join me on the beautiful shores of Loch Leven. We've had a great day fishing. Haven't been able to get any on video because I've been out in a float tube most of the time, but there's lots of pictures to come for that. So what I'd like to show you today is a lure I designed for HTO, and it's called the Schlugg. Now the Schlugg is basically a multi-purpose trick worm, and here it is. Let's get a little close-up of him. Now it doesn't look much, but the fish really enjoy it. And what it does, it's a worm you can rig in multiple different ways. You can rig it on drop shot, you can rig it on jig head rigs, Texas rigs, Carolina rigs, you can Nico rig it, you can even fish it weightless. But the way I've been fishing it today, for the cod and the pollack and the wrasse here, has been just a simple jig head rig, and that's also how I've been working it for the bass as well on the east coast. Now this is the lure. I've been using a pearl white one here, and that's been doing really well. The ragworm's been doing really well. In fact, all the colours have been doing really well. The fish are on them. So they're really easy to rig. My favourite rig is probably the jig head rig. I like using just a standard jig head here. This is a standard football jig head, 10 gram, 2.0, and I quite like using an exposed hook when I'm fishing here. My tackle is so sensitive with the braid and the types of rod I use, is that generally I can feel a snag before I reel into it. So it kind of negates the need to use like a Texas rig or a weedless rig, because I'm using such finesse gear that I can feel what's going on. Now, in order to rig them on a jig head, really straightforward. Take your jig head here, your Schlugg here, you just thread it onto the hook like this till it's just round the bend of the hook. Allow the point to come out, and then slide it all up. Bingo. And that's him, nice and straight and rigged on the hook. And these are a really good way of working it on a football jig head, is to cast out. So you cast them out, let them sink all the way to the bottom on a tight line. As it's falling, you'll be able to feel when a fish comes up and engulfs it, and that happens quite a lot. As it's dropping, a fish will come up from underneath and suck the lot in. Bang, strike, you're in. If it gets to the bottom unmolested, I like to let it sink down and rest on the bottom. The great thing about a football jig head is it will sit flat like this on the bottom, and when you apply pressure or tighten the line, it will tip up and you'll get this nice tail up presentation. Now I like to let it sit on the bottom, couple of twitches, let that tail come up and wiggle around, let it flop down again. Tail come up, wiggle around, let it flop. If nothing's going to grab it then I'll hop it up, maybe get it about 8 foot above the bottom and let it fall again, and just repeat that until I'm back to shore. The other way of rigging it, which I've been using a little bit, is on a simple another jig head rig, but this one's an offset jig head, which you can see here, and this gives you a weedless jig head presentation. This is slightly different to rig, so all we do, let's see if you can see, so we get the hook point in, allow it to come out just about there, you see, thread it up until it meets the jig head here, and then all we do, just measure where the hook comes out, which is there, and there we go. Nicely rigged weedless rig. That's another way of doing it. Another one, of course, which I love, is the Jika rig, and again that's another great presentation. So here we go. I've got a Jika rig, which is just an offset hook here with 2 split rings, and attached to that is a drop shot weight. And again, it's much the same to rig this. You put the slug in, so it's just a little bit in the top there, slide it up so it covers the shank of that hook, and then we measure where that hook's going to go, so keep it nice and straight, so it's about there. Bang, there we go. There's a Schlugg rigged on a Jika rig. Now what you can do is slide it up, bury the hook point in here. You can just see the hook point buried, and that's that Jika rig Schlugg ready to go. That's a great one because when it drops, you can see the weight hanging down. It drops straight down, and when it hits on the ground, if you keep a tight line, it'll sit like that, just off the ground, maybe an inch, however long your drop shot weight is. And it's a really good method. You can feel around with that, and it's really nice on the drop. So there's just a few different methods of rigging the Schlugg, and it's been really, really effective for me, and I hope it's just as effective for you.